sensitive is called sensory processing sensitivity. All it means is that we are more sensitive to the senses, to things that are coming in through our senses, and we process them more deeply. And so you can say the scientific term, and sometimes it's a helpful thing to use to speak to, say, mental health professionals or medical professionals. But most people will be confused between sensory processing sensitivity and sensory processing disorder. SPD, or sensory processing disorder, is different. It's a diagnosis. Many, usually diagnosed children are diagnosed with it, but some adults can have it as well. And many people who have SPD are also sensory processing sensitive, or highly sensitive people or children. But this is a trait, and it's not a disorder. Highly sensitive people, that's what's pretty famous now. Everybody's using it. You can find it on Oprah, or, we have the Highly Sensitive Refuge putting out lots and lots and lots of material to thousands of highly sensitive people. It's pretty common these days. At the same time, I bet in your families, at your work, at your kids' school, maybe in the dating world, it's not something you lead with. Nonetheless, I have to tell you, somebody put a little bug in my ear. One of the finalist contestants on The Bachelorette this season introduced himself as a highly sensitive person. And I know my course manager was very curious, so I found out that's Jason. Just in case you're curious, go back and look at, I don't know which episode it was, in probably the first few episodes, he tells The Bachelorette that he's a highly sensitive person. And so whenever we have that kind of visibility, it's amazing, right? Because if you're highly sensitive, especially a highly sensitive young adult, then you see yourself on screen on a show that lots of millennials are watching. So that's amazing. Another terminology that is used, and this comes from Sweden, is orchids and dandelions. I already said I'm a professional orchid. You know what orchids are like. They're beautiful. They're extravagant. They are really difficult to keep alive for very long. You're going to see a little video later during the break where there's no orchid on my table because I had definitely killed it. It was in my kitchen, wondering if anybody in this household would ever be able to bring it back to life. But with a lot of the right kind of care, they can bloom over and over again. Dandelions are so resilient. They can be in a crack in the sidewalk, drought, stepping on them, floods, nothing really damages them. They can just survive anything. And sometimes I really like dandelions. I want to be a dandelion. Next slide. So I just want to tell you, somebody was mentioning that I'm speaking quickly. It's true. I always feel such a time pressure, but you know why I'm speaking too quickly? Thank you for mentioning it. Because I'm overstimulated. And that's the only negative aspect of being highly sensitive. So thank you so much. I'll slow down a little bit for you. Orchids are defined by variety. I love this picture because, you can't even tell those are all part of the same species, or some of them even look like bugs, right? But they're so diverse, and so are we. So let's run that little poll about one of the ways that we're all different, and that's by age. I just want to acknowledge that our experience is, as highly sensitive people, is as varied as the people who are here and the people who are in the world. How many highly sensitive people are there in the world? Probably almost 2 billion people. That's a lot of different ways to be highly sensitive. I mentioned that this is not a disorder. It's actually a trait, as in a personality trait. A trait, you can see what it is. It's just, we are born with it. And nothing you can do can make you less sensitive. Nothing you can do can change the fact that you're highly sensitive. And sometimes that's a hard thing. I get questions all the time. How can I be less sensitive? You can't, but you can change the way you interact with the world that makes it more friendly for you. There's a lot of confusion out there in the popular press about highly sensitive people and how it overlaps with introversion. I put this picture on. This is when I first started my YouTube channel at the beginning of COVID, when I realized I couldn't teach people live anymore. So I had to find a way. So I made a YouTube channel, and this is an early video, Alane Freund, introvert YouTuber. And, it was a lot for me. I am introverted, and it's a lot for me to be on screen and look into the camera and allow you to see me. I like when I'm doing the slideshow because I'm very small. And so I really want to acknowledge that many of us are introverts. However, many of us are not. So about 30% of highly sensitive people are extroverts, and you have a very different experience. And sometimes it might be a little harder for extroverts because you're pulled to go out in the world and engage. But as a highly sensitive person, you need lots of in time to disengage, to recuperate and return to optimal level of arousal. Slide. One of the things that highly sensitive people tend to do well in terms of returning to a calmer state, whether they're extroverts or introverts, is spend time in nature and time with animals. And I couldn't resist throwing in this picture of a young client engaging with this big horse. Also, you know, I love horses and I'm a horsewoman. You can ask me questions about them if you want. But one of the things that horses do so well as prey animals, they're more like highly sensitive people. Even though 20% of them, 15 to 20, 25%, somewhere in there, some percentage of them are highly sensitive and have more reactive brains than the rest of them, all prey animals survive in the wild and in the world by being where their feet are. And that's what helps us as well. Next slide. So what is the percentage? You heard me talking about the horses. Well, I put This is new on the slide because there are questions. We don't really know what the percentage is. We know that it's at least 20%, and it may be up to 30% of humans, and almost every other species are highly sensitive. And I'll talk a little bit more as we go along about what that means about how our brains work. But as long as we are a minority, it means that we have certain challenges living in the world. At the same time, we're too large of a minority for it to be a disadvantage, an illness, or a disorder. And that's a very important thing to remember. Maybe next slide, as you've gone through your life, you've started to feel like there is something wrong with you, right? That you are wrong. And I say over and over again, I think I said on the course page, you're not wrong. The world's just wrong for you. So this great study in 2008 found that there would be that high sensitivity or sensory processing sensitivity, I'm going to use those words interchangeably, is negative frequency dependent. And so this is something that you can use in your talking points. It's always a minority because, you know, there's a great advantage to being highly sensitive. But if everyone was that way, the advantage wouldn't work. So I just want to ask you for a moment to close your eyes. Take a couple of breaths, and I noticed I was just inhaling through my mouth, and I want to encourage us, how about for the rest of today, to just breathe through your nose. And see what that's like. It slows the breathing down just a little bit. And if you have not yet read James Nestor's book, Breath, I can't recommend it highly enough. He's a journalist, and he did a lot of research on breathing techniques through the centuries, as well as the current science on it. And what he came up with is the health that we in general breathe more quickly and too much through our mouth and too shallowly for our human bodies. So whenever you think of it, just take some slow breaths through your nose. So the reason I asked you to close your eyes is because I'd like you to think about what is an advantage that you've experienced? What is an advantage that you think highly sensitive people have? Just ponder it for a moment. Elaine Aron always gives the example of knowing the quickest way to get somewhere, how to use the back roads. And, you know, with GPS and Waze and all those apps, maybe that's not such a great advantage for highly sensitive people anymore. I think that here's another example. I always know when to go to which restaurant based on how full it will be, how noisy it will be, how cold or hot the patio will be, because I'm still not eating indoors in restaurants. I'm COVID paranoid. I'm coming out of COVID paranoid. Now, HSPs, if you know you're highly sensitive, if you have that more reactive brain, that's another great way to say it. I have a more reactive brain, saying I'm COVID paranoid. I think that actually being paranoid is a highly sensitive advantage. I'm not talking about clinical paranoia. I'm using it in lay terms. We do think more and worry more about things. And as long as it doesn't keep us from being able to function in the world, we use it to solve the problems and to find great solutions, then it's a strength. How do we even figure it out? How did Alane and Art Aaron figure this out? Well, they started looking at early research on temperament and childhood behavior and on animals. So we're going to talk about a couple of those stories today. 65% of children in this study fit into 3 types: easy, slow to warm up, and difficult. And when they did an overlay of looking at what were the very specific things that made them decide a child was slow to warm up or difficult, they found that those overlapped with high sensitivity. So we can see there we get to a number of 25%. Michael Plewis is doing a lot of research on environmental sensitivity. So sensitivity to your environment, which is one of as a temperament. Let's go to the next slide while we go into temperament here. And he has found that maybe as many as 30%, as I said, but maybe there's a range in that 30% of some people who are more highly sensitive. So yes, thank you. Highly sensitive children is HSC. So let's go back one more time. There you go. See, it says mostly HSCs, also some HSCs. Those are highly sensitive children. Thank you so much. Okay, next slide. Let's look at the animals for a moment. You've probably seen this slide before. It's one of my favorites. I show it in every single talk. I think it's really important to notice these very different species that the scientists discovered, that 15 to 20%, and there's research on 100+ species. Here we have the pumpkin seed sunfish, the rhesus macaque monkeys, and the fruit flies. Pardon that picture. It's really creepy to me. But in these studies, every single one of these species and all the rest of them, some of them have more reactive brains. Some of them have this deep processing where they really think before they act. And we're going to go into a study about that with humans in a moment, but it applies to the animals as well. So the fish that had the more reactive brain, they didn't swim into the trap. The monkeys that had the more reactive brain, when they were put in a high pressure situation, they got more ill, actually. But if they had skilled parenting and they were raised with a skilled mother, because the monkeys are raised by the mothers mostly, then they rose to ascendancy in their tribe, in their troop, I think they called it. So they became the leaders and had more skills and flourished much more than the other ones. The fruit flies, in the presence of food, some of them are quiet. They sit and observe before they act, and others just whirl around like crazy. Turns out the sitters had the more neural complexity. Isn't that crazy? So how they study these things, it's fascinating. And you can go on Google Scholar and look up these studies and read the minute details. They're very hard to understand, but truly fascinating. Next slide. So temperament is related to trait, and the sensitivity to the environment is one of the 9 temperaments that were studied by Chess and Thomas. And they are sort of the parents of temperament study. And it's really important that this environmental sensitivity, to remember that it's only one of the 9 temperaments. There are other things like activity level and intensity level and withdrawing and approaching. It's a very fascinating study. I just wanted to introduce that environmental sensitivity in 1965 was one of Chess and Thomas's temperaments that they found studying infants and young children. Okay, next. So the Aarons, I mentioned them briefly. They're research psychologists. Dr. Art Aaron is a social psychologist, and Alane is more of a clinical psychologist. But one day, next slide, Alane's therapist said, "I think you're just highly sensitive." And she took it and ran with it. They have done so much research. Some would say they started a movement. And I believe that. They started a movement that has changed my life and the lives of most people. And I'll just tell the quick little anecdote. You've probably heard it before, but Alane told me I was highly sensitive at the barn. We were just horse buddies. I had no idea she was famous and had sold 2 million books and blah, blah, blah. And she came up to me at my truck and said, "Hey, Alane, you're highly sensitive." And I thought, where do you get off? And she said, "Have you read the book?" And I'm like, "No." And she didn't tell me she wrote it. She just told me to go look it up. So that was the beginning of a long history together of teaching and working together. And now here I am instead of her. So the great thing about my friendship with Elaine and then all the work that we've done together over the last decade or so is that I don't know everything, but I have the expert in my pocket. Elaine's right there helping us. These are her 4 characteristics for recognizing highly sensitive people. And this is the great acronym. So write it down the left side of your paper and we'll fill them in. Go ahead, next. So I write about this a lot. I talk about this a lot, and you probably know it. But it's really important because it helps so much when we need to be able to explain what high sensitivity is. And we do need to be able to explain it. It's really important. So D is deep processing. You know, you're a thinker. You think deeply and a lot. And sometimes it's a curse and sometimes it's a blessing, but it is in fact true. And we've discovered, it's been documented with functional MRI studies. So it's something that we do because our brains are put together differently. Because of all that thinking and the E, that we're more emotionally reactive and have much stronger empathy, we become easily over-aroused is a scientific term. And you might say overstimulated or overwhelmed. But oh, as I mentioned earlier, it's the one disadvantage to being highly sensitive. And if you're living your life chronically overwhelmed or overstimulated, that's really hard. And I want to just acknowledge the challenge that comes with that. That's why you're here. I hope that's why you're here, because I want to help teach you and teach us. As I mentioned in my letter, we're going to be accountability partners to each other on preventing overarousal, because once you're there, you're there. In fact, if you're feeling kind of anxious or really critical or frustrated right now, you might be noticing that you're feeling over-aroused. So what does that look like? It's higher muscle tension, more shallow breathing. Your temperature might raise, or you might just feel grouchy. We, in my small group, Wise Women and Wonder, highly sensitive women over 55, we were talking about how do you know when you're getting over aroused? And one of the things we came up with is you start dropping more swear words. At least that's true for me. So let's just take a moment as you're writing this. What is one sign that you're becoming more over aroused? What is the thing that you notice first? A lot of times we're already spinning into a lot of this before we even notice it. But if you just look at your life, when do you start feeling icky? Or when do you know that you're going to have a spin out or a meltdown or even an anxiety attack? I hope not, but that happens a lot, and it happens to me as well. And just make a note of that, because it's something you might want to share later with your partner. So our brains literally react more to emotional content. I'll show you some of those studies, maybe a little today and a little next week. But here's the good news. We are more reactive to positive than we are to negative. It's crazy. You probably notice the negative. That's just kind of how we humans are. We notice negative more. I'm sorry, but that's what we do. And but highly sensitive people are actually more reactive to positive stuff. And that's because of the empathy. It's a great thing. We just have to be really careful. We're going to have a little lesson on when you let your empathy get the better of you and it becomes maybe kind of toxic or codependent, and what to do about that. Finally, we're sensitive to subtle stimuli. That's how you're noticing that that I could slow down, or that the temperature is not quite right. You might notice the smell or the lights. You might notice, for me, like every time the light reflects in my glasses in that little tiny picture in the corner, I guess maybe I should have it off. I notice it and and then I deep process it. And then I have an emotional reaction about it. So here's something to write at this point on S is what's the one thing? Oh, actually, I do want to do a little exercise right now. This is a resilience exercise, and I learned this from my friend and colleague, Julia Lerner. And so I just want to ask you to scan your environment wherever you are, even if you're like doing this surreptitiously at work. And the way you're going to scan your environment is just to look, not just your eyes, but actually move your head. Look everywhere and look at every bit of your environment that you can see. Up, down, all around. When you do that, did you notice that you're stretching your neck? I sure did. You're moving a lot of muscles and releasing a lot of tension through here, but also you're giving your brain the opportunity to scan and notice all the subtleties. Now I'm going to ask you to do it again. And as you're looking around, not just moving and looking, making sure your eyes scan everything, I want you to notice one thing in your environment that you think most people who would come into your environment would not notice. Okay, I'm going to give you a negative and a positive for me. I noticed that the yoga towel isn't folded properly. I can't remember how or why that happened. I put a towel down on the floor below my yoga mat when I'm exercising, so the yoga mat doesn't get dirty because I'm highly sensitive. And I also noticed the beauty of the light in the forest out my back window. So just write down on your own page there, what are some of the things that you noticed? Slide. I'm going to go ahead. Let's just move through these four in the interest of time. I spoke quite a bit. Go ahead through the next. Oh, here we go. Perfect. So this is a very, very important study. So please come take a screenshot. It's on my website. You can see it there. And anytime you want to see it, just alanefriend.com/ and I think it's highly sensitive people with hyphens, but you can just go there and look at it. Okay. This is something that included the animal research as well as people research, and I love it. Now, just before I say anything, just look for a moment, which one is you? Are you do it right and do it once, or go for it? If you're wrong, go for it again. It doesn't have to always be you. It doesn't mean you're not highly sensitive if you're not always one way, or that you are highly sensitive if you're not always one way. But in the vast majority of people with this more reactive brain, it's the top one. We're more responsive, reflective, reactive, and sensitive. And look, over 100 different kinds of animals have been studied to find this. Wow. This other strategy, go for it. If you're wrong, go for it again. Thank goodness that's the majority. We would never get anything done if we were all reflecting before we acted. At the same time, if everybody was a go for it person, they were just swinging their sword and going through, colonizing and building and knocking down and going to war. If everybody was like that, if there were no do it right and do it once people reflecting and advising the sword wielders, then we would just decimate ourselves. And some would say that maybe we already are decimating ourselves. That is why I wanted you to be here. That is why I took on this massive project that is not very HSP friendly. Let me just tell you, doing a big course like this, it's very challenging. And I took it on for the specific reason that we need to be able to feel good enough about ourselves to advise and reflect and change the world and help all the go for it people do it with just a little bit more wisdom. So I love those people, and I wish I was one, and I am not. So I work in my own personal practice to embrace and appreciate my reflection time. Next slide. Okay, so the overstimulation is really hard. So I want to just give you a little exercise right now. See, today I'm just giving you lots of little exercises, and this is your physical exercise for the week. Let me just take a moment to, we'll talk just for a moment about, oh no, I think, go ahead, next slide. Let me see what I put in here. Oh yeah, let's just talk about this for a minute. I found this picture on the internet. You know what I'm talking about, people? I feel that way when I'm reading email and when I'm on the computer, but also anytime. I just feel like I need to close some of those tabs. And let me show the next picture, please. This is what overarousal feels like to me. And I just wonder, even looking at that picture could be over arousing, but then I could be like, so HSP, and oh, look at those beautiful colors and all those beautiful images and the way the light is bending, but still, this is what over arousal feels like in my brain. So think about a little bit about what it feels like in your brain. And then let's just take a moment and close your eyes. let's move on to the next slide so that you don't need to look at the next slide. Oh, actually you can. I put this in to remind us to close our eyes. So this is one of your resilience exercises for the week, not your physical movement one that's coming in a minute. And all you have to do is close your eyes for 30 seconds. And we're going to do that right now. Just close your eyes. I won't change the slide. And what I'd like you to do is to notice what happens in your brain when you close your eyes. 80% of stimulation comes in through your eyes. 80%, that's a ton. So all you have to do to close your eyes to help move you back down the arousal level issue, right? To help you come back to a lower level of arousal, or to prevent you from climbing up the arousal thermometer, as it were. Okay, feel free to keep your eyes open. The next slide doesn't have anything new on it. Go ahead, Joanna. I'm going to talk a minute about emotional reactivity and empathy. And I hope you all saw the opening workshops on your course page where I taught the warrior heart, because I hope that you will do it a lot. So it's about bringing the empathy to ourselves. So let's go on to the next slide. And now if you'd like to open your eyes, you can. So remember, I was saying that we're more reactive to emotions. This is just the study. Bianca Acevedo has done a lot of research with the Aarons and on her own. And this research was so amazing. And one of the ways that they did it was they did functional MRI studies. So the brain was being scanned by an MRI while the people were being shown pictures. Isn't it amazing? Okay, go on, next slide. One of the advantages to our empathy here is that we're better gamblers, and we might be good at trading. I mentioned actually in my talk at Google that my dad and I both day trade, and I'm not doing it a lot right now, but he does every day, and he also plays Texas Hold'em. So if you're very much less likely to become an addict to various things if you're highly sensitive, because you're so thoughtful about it. So you're more responsible to opportunities, but you're also more careful about risk. So my son's learning Texas Hold'em and goes to tournaments with my dad, and he says, I know how not to bust out. I just don't bet unless I'm going to win. Typical highly sensitive person's attitude toward gambling. Okay, next slide. Sensitivity to subtle stimuli. Next slide. I put this picture in here of one of my therapy horses, and he's been rolling around on the ground. So he's got all sorts of nice dirt all over him. And this is a man here who's here actually with his family working. And I asked him to reach out and to stop when the horse noticed that he was going to touch him. And this is the point at which the horse's ears pricked up, because he's so sensitive. And just think about all the times that we walk up to children and animals and put our hands on them. And for the highly sensitive, it's hard. And for those who are not highly sensitive, it doesn't even really impact them that much. But maybe you can think of a time when you were a child and somebody touched you in a way that was startling to you. All right, next slide. How did we get this HSP scale? Now we're moving into our little exercise, your homework. So Alane, once she took off on it, she interviewed, you can see 39 people, in great detail. Then she came with 60 things that seemed to be common. Then they did more studies to figure out which ones worked for more people. And eventually tens of thousands of people were studied on the HSP scale. And they came down to these 27 items that are on the scale that you have open on your screen, I hope, on your other tab. And that scale is now being revised again with thousands of more studies. So when you see out there in the world, people have created their own scale or their own questionnaire to determine if you're highly sensitive. Why is that not okay? I'm going to tell you. The reason is that generally they're a little too negative based. and it puts the negative light on high sensitivity. The other thing is it's really hard to find the extroverts and the men and the teenagers and possibly even the high sensation seekers, which is what I am, people who have another trait that's not correlated with high sensitivity, but like to do a lot and get a lot of sensation, but are still highly sensitive. All of people like that are harder to identify. And so the new self-assessment will probably be out, and it will be even better at recognizing all these different populations. Next. So there's newer research. We can now assess the degree of sensitivity. There's the thing about 3 distinct groups. This is not 3 distinct groups within the 20 to 30% who are highly sensitive, but among humanity, that there are highly sensitive people, there are medium people, and then there are a small percentage of very low sensitivity people. And there's a new older child and teen self-test. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but and especially if you have old tweens and teens and young adults, the new test is out there. It has a smaller number of questions, and it is often better for sort of, say, the middle school, which for those of you who are not in the US, that's maybe the 10 to 13 range. For teenagers, I often recommend that they do what I'm going to recommend for men, and that we're going to take the child test, which will be your homework tonight, and the adult test, and combine them. I'll tell you how in a minute. Here we have the self-test, and I like to be sure this is where you can find another copy. You have it on your course page, but it's always available publicly at hsperson.com. It's copyrighted, and you can take it and you can refer any client you want, therapists, and any friend you want, everybody, to hsperson.com to take the test. You're not really allowed to administer it to them because it's the publisher literally owns it. The new one will be more accessible, but it's publicly available. So next slide. So here we have now our homework. I had asked you before to look at the test and choose one positive and one challenging for you item. Yes, the book, The Highly Sensitive Person, and the self-tests are translated into 31 different languages. Isn't that fabulous? So, and the test is in the books, so you can find it. Open your test up, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes now, and you will choose one positive and one negative and write for just 3 minutes about those 2 things, and then we'll share it with another person. So go ahead and open the test. And I'm going to start my timer right now, actually, because we want to have time for Q&A. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our 3 minutes. And so if you haven't moved on to the challenging one or the positive one, go ahead and choose one and write a couple things about it. Doesn't have to be fancy. Okay. So Joanna, will you scroll this up a little bit more? So your assignment is to choose one thing about this that is a benefit or that you see as positive, and one thing that you see as negative in your life that's on the self-test. Again, if you can't find it right now and you really need to see it, just go to hsperson.com and click on the self-test tab. Okay, so this is exactly off of it. I have permission from Elaine to show it in this course. Okay, go ahead and scroll up for the second half, please, Joanna. Okay, so it's just 27 items. And if you have not yet taken it, I want you to. It's very important that you take this self-test and to just notice what is true. Okay, I think we'll close this and go back to me. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you I'm going to explain a little bit more of the logistics. So you have homework, lots of homework. At Shift, we call them deepening practices. And I don't know if you saw my letter, if everybody saw the letter, but here's the deal. The more you do, the more you'll redesign your life. It's very simple. That's all it is. You know, it's like like having a trainer at the gym or physical therapy. I love physical therapy because I feel so guilty next week if I didn't do my exercise that I at least do them the 2 days before my next appointment. Right? So I want you to think of this like physical therapy. You've got to do your exercises. So you have closing your eyes for 30 seconds. You have breathing more slowly and only through your nose. Right? You can put a hold at the library on the James Nestor book, Breath. Those are 3 of your things. But also on the home page, on your course page, you're going to see your deepening exercises for today. And every single week, we're going to have some physical exercise. Because look, my friends, you can't move the energy through and return to optimal level of arousal if you don't move your body. So I have walking as one of our homeworks. And all you have to do, I wrote a blog about it. It's on the homepage. All you have to do is walk more than you walked yesterday and the day before. And I write in there a little bit about how you could do walking meditation, which is just walking 4 steps or 10 steps across your room. Your room's bigger than mine. You can do more than 4 steps, but you just can walk back and forth across your living room and notice your feet on the ground. Or you can take a walk in nature and notice all the beautiful colors and the temperature of the air on your skin. So read that article and decide what kind of walking you want to do, but definitely every day. And if you don't do much walking, I'm going to just ask you to do 5 minutes every day. I wrote up a little bit in there about how you kind of make these things happen. But now I have a course. It's called Move Your HSP. I created it just for this workshop. And the first installment of it is the Hallelujah breath. And I got this from Bob and Brad, who are physical therapists on YouTube. I think they're hilarious and they're very HSP friendly. And so I'm going to teach it to you. And all you need is a pillow or a cushion. You don't have to have one. You can pretend you have one. And if you were in the physical therapist office, you would put one of those soft little balls like you buy at the grocery store for $1 for the children behind your back, or maybe some fancy physical therapy ball. So you're going to put this behind your back. And if you're a woman, I like to think of it like at my bra strap level. And I hope that for this course, you maybe have made yourself more comfortable and don't have a bra on. TMI, right? I do because I'm the teacher, but you could be more comfortable. You could be in your PJs. And, but everyone kind of knows where that is. And I would say that that is before the bottom of your thoracic vertebrae. So, we have 12 from our neck to our low back, there are 12 vertebrae. So we're going to put it somewhere behind our upper back or our shoulders. And the Hallelujah breath is simply that you take a big breath in through the nose and you bring your arms and your head and your neck back. Oh, should have done this before. Can't believe we sat here for an hour and didn't do this. Let's do it again. I really want you to do it right now. I'm bossy that way. Okay, so you're going to take a big breath in. If you don't have a pillow right there, you don't have to do it with a pillow right now. Just do the breath. Bring your arms up and back, and remember the rule, and exhale and bring your arms down. The rule for all exercise and all stretching, this is keep yourself safe. Only do what is comfortable for you. Don't stretch to the point of pain. Just stretch in a way that feels good to you. You could, let's all do one together again. A big breath in and arms up. Maybe a little sigh. Maybe that's just me. So I was doing this one day on the beach because I just do this a lot ever since you probably naturally do this sometimes. Actually, it's a really great video. I'll share it with you in a future week. about from the woman who was one of the founders of Rolfing, and talking about how we need to be grounded, but also stretching, that we create that kind of movement in our body. It's the same. Don't forget your scanning exercise. I didn't write that in the notes, but you wrote it in your notes. Okay, so hallelujah breath. So anyway, there's this funny little video of me doing it on the beach in your course page to remind you. So if you don't remember what it is, you can just go on there and look at it. So I want to ask you, okay, here's all these exercises. Here's how it works. You can do them once a day. You can do them every time before you have a meal, or you can do them as many times as you want, but your homework is only to do them once a day. I think if it feels good and you do it every day, that you will do more. And so hallelujah breath and stretch, scan the room, breathe in and out through your nose, and walk. That's it. That's pretty easy homework, right? But if you didn't do today's homework, I want you to do that too. Oh no, there's one more big homework. Sorry, that was kind of a bait and switch. So in how many repetitions of the breath? I'm going to say 3. You can do as many as you want, but 3 is my magic number. And 3 is so easy, right? It's hardly any, but you might find yourself doing it 30 times a day. Okay, now your sort of academic homework is I put the highly sensitive child test in. So do your work with the highly sensitive, are you highly sensitive self-test first. And then I want you to take the highly sensitive child test. And here's how you do it. There's instructions in there, so you don't need to write this down, just listen. You're going to take that test about yourself as a child. So here's what I would like you to do. I want you to try to find a picture of yourself as a child. If it's at all possible for you to get one, I want you to keep that picture with you every time we meet. Just put it on your keyboard, or put it on your bathroom mirror. And the ideal age that I'm thinking of, it can be any age, but the ideal age I'm thinking of is 3 to 6 or 2 to 6. That's when temperament is more obvious. By the age of 7, we start to tuck it all in and it looks a little different. So why is this so important? Your homework is to write about what it's like to take the child test about yourself as a child. If you have anyone you can interview who knew you as a child, great. If you don't, ask your siblings. If you have siblings who, even if they're younger, they kind of knew who you were. A lot of times, if you have a spouse, they know you so well, they know exactly how you were as a child. But also just remember the stories that you were told. And those first early memories, I think you'll know what your answers are. So the secret is that I am only yes on half on the adult, because as I mentioned, I'm a high sensation seeker. And a lot of times men and adolescents and extroverts and high sensation seekers score lower on the Are You Highly Sensitive self-test, because in our society, those 4 groups, it's not socially acceptable to have those things true. So, but when I took the child test, all of those are true except for one of me as a child. So I want you to really look into that. That is part of reframing childhood, which is one of the highly sensitive person's 5 to thrive. So that's your homework. It's on your course homepage. Definitely write to shift if you can't find it. It's really important. That's where there's a lot of secret sauce on those module pages. Okay. Now we're going to take a bio break before Q&A. Joanna's going to play a video. It's in the recording. You do not need to watch it. It's enriching. For those of you who feel like you really got to get your money's worth, stay here and watch it. But for the vast majority of you, I want you to get up. We're going to take about 7 minutes. Get up, go get something to eat. I'm going for some chocolate. Reheat your tea, or refill your glass of wine if you're in Europe and it's the evening. Whatever you're doing, go take care of you for 7 minutes. Okay? Stretch, move, take care of you. And we'll put that video on. Great.
I recently received a question. She said, could you please unpack this concept of dandelions and orchids a little bit more? So this will be my introduction to high sensitivity today. I love the Swedish terms. I don't love the Swedish terms. I don't even try to say them. But the Swedish concept of referring to children as dandelions and orchids. The dandelions are those resilient children that you can just kind of do anything to and they still flourish or don't flourish, whatever it is in their lives. They're negative or positive influences don't impact them that much. They just go through life. They're really, really resilient, just like dandelions, right? Orchid children are the children who are impacted by every little thing. You might notice there's no orchid on my table today. Sometimes I buy orchids. I love them. They're so beautiful and unique, but I have a dead one in the kitchen. I didn't think you'd want to see it, because orchids require a lot of TLC, a lot of special care. And, even when the petals wither or dry up and fall,
Joanne, are you there?
many places where it would feel great to say, I'm a highly sensitive person in the world, except for right here. Can you? Like,
yes, I am.
There's a weird scent at work and you have to explain why you just can't live with it. Or somebody scraping their teeth on the fork at a meal and you're having a little anxiety because you have misophonia, and you want to say, I'm a highly sensitive person. Many of us are working really hard about, somebody says, or that bright light at the meeting, and you want to, you need to explain why that's not working. And many of us have gotten really, really great at this point in our lives, especially if you're in this community and you're working really hard on being a thriving, highly sensitive person in the world. You've gotten good at talking about it, and that's great. But we need lots of different ways to talk about it. So, and especially some people have a harder time, or in some environments like corporate world, or thinking about teenagers and adolescents, like what adolescent wants to say you're a highly sensitive person? I've had adolescents, teens, clients, weeping to me saying, I just want to be autistic or ADHD. I don't want to have to tell people I'm highly sensitive. It's better to have something that you can understand, right, to explain. So sometimes we talk about having a finely tuned nervous system, or just being finely tuned. Sometimes we talk about having a more reactive brain or a more noticing brain. And, you just kind of say, you might notice that some people, you may know that some people just notice more than other people. I'm one of those people. Not only do I notice them, but I think about all those things and they impact me. It's not that I see, hear, taste, or smell better than you. It's that I have to think about all those senses when they're happening. Same with feelings. So for some people, talking about orchid and dandelion, like me, I think I said in one of my travel vlog videos that I want to have a t-shirt that says high maintenance and proud of it. I mean, am I actually proud of being highly high maintenance? No, not really, but I embrace it, man. That's just who I am. So that is my little spiel about orchid and dandelion. I think it's just really a beautiful way to talk about us, and it really doesn't work for some people. And, when I'm talking with sensitive youth, I talk about, having a Tesla or a Jaguar or an Apple Watch, or something that you really have to take better care of, right? You can't just, I have to wear Timex when I wear a watch, like a $35 Timex. That's the only thing that can survive me, because it's really hardy, and I'm really hard on my watches. I think actually electromagnetically I break them, but also I'm very, active outdoors. So I'm not a Timex. All right, I'm a smartwatch. Do I have a smartwatch? No. Why? Because I would break it, because it needs a lot of care, and I'm giving all my special care to me. So I hope that's helpful, hearing me talk about myself and other ideas about how to talk about it.
So we're going to start back up now as the Q&A.
So we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Brittany.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Brittany. Welcome.
Hi, Alane. The first question I had was just about if the slides will be posted.
Yes.
Okay.
The slides are posted, which is really cool. Now,
okay.
and you know what? Just to tell everybody, I never allow my slides to be posted. So this is a rare, rare opportunity that they will be there. So.
Okay, perfect. And my second question was, I watched the introduction or like, you know, video.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned one technique where you turn off your lights and then you lie down and put your legs up against the wall. And I missed how many minutes you should do that for.
Oh, thank you for asking, because that gives me a chance to teach it.
Yeah.
Were you going to add something, Brittany?
No, that's
Okay.
it.
So this is yoga inversion.
Mhm.
You know, if you're a yogini, you're like standing on your head, right? Or putting your hands under your back and putting your feet straight up in the air. And I know those are there are you folks here who do that. But for the lay people in the world, like myself, I like to just lay with your tush right up against the wall or the headboard of your bed and your legs straight up on the wall. And if you lay like that with your legs up on the wall, you kind of move yourself sideways and scooch up as close as you can get. And if you want a little bit more, you can put a pillow under your hips and you put your legs up against the wall. If you can lay like that with your eyes closed for 3 minutes, they say it's equal to a 30-minute nap.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It is incredible. And because what happens is all the blood in your legs recirculates in that time. And so it's an amazing, amazing tool. So add that to your list. I hope that you'll keep a page in your notebook of all the tools, because you might not, after this course is over, go back to watch all of this stuff again, but you'll have written down a list of all the exercises I'm going to teach these 7 weeks. Hey, Dean.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thanks for asking.
Okay, and we're going to pass it over to Dean.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
As a male, I've been married for 32 years to a wonderful woman who puts up with me. My question is, do I, I know on the self-test, it does not talk about liking or loving to clean. I love cleaning. I love washing dishes. I love making my house clean and organized. Is that part of it as well?
Can you come to my house? I miss that kind of sensitivity. You know, it's the thing is there's so much interesting stuff out there. Are you into Marie Kondo?
I don't know what that is. Sorry.
Oh, she's a Japanese woman who wrote this great book. It's the magic of tidying up. She's very into cleaning and tidying up. And there is no doubt, from all of the feng shui writing and all of the uncluttered courses out there, we know that a clean and clear environment helps our nervous system and our minds calm down. Now, a lot of highly sensitive people spend so much the life-changing magic of tidying up. Thank you so much. So we'll put that in there. So a lot of people really struggle with having the time and the energy and the space to do it. But if you've designed your life so that you can, I know many, many highly sensitive people who have just really immaculately clean and organized spaces. It's sort of like what Elaine Aron said in the parenting book, though. If you can't make it happen, I don't want to be really judgmental about this, Dean, but I feel like it's sort of advanced HSP. And because it's taking care of your environment in a way that makes you feel good. And yes, I do know a lot of highly sensitive people who share that with you. But what I was saying about Elaine in the parenting book, I see how I got overstimulated and distracted by the chat, is that if you can't do that for yourself, it would be better, but that feels important to you, to figure out to find a little extra money to have someone do it for you. Or, I don't know about you, but a lot of overwhelmed, especially gifted, highly sensitive people struggle with organizing. But I could organize your closet any day, and then you could come and do mine for me. So,
May I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Was really one of the sayings we have in our house is, can you please turn the lights out? I can't see. It's been going on since the day I was married, but I have no idea what I was for like the last year and a half. I figured it out, but yeah.
It's, that's really interesting. In my house, there's one person who always has all the lights on, and I'm always turning them all off because I'm happy with low light. So we're orchids. Thank you, Dean.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to pass it over to Susan.
Hi, Elaine. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for doing this and for stepping out of your comfort zone to do this. I get it. I feel you.
Thank you.
I was in tears in this last thing you did before the break. The orchid dandelion is so difficult for me because my whole life, and I consider myself maybe a bit of an advanced HSP, and I'm a Reiki master, and I've been dealing with this for a long time. Reiki, by the way, is amazing for highly sensitive people.
I agree.
But where I'm really challenged is this idea. I have two daughters, and sort of explaining this. My entire life, I've had such deep shaming for being high maintenance. And so I could never wear that t-shirt that you're talking about. And I'm just wondering, what I'm really looking for is some help in, I guess, just kind of owning that, not feeling that, releasing that shame around not being easy. And I love what you say about a Timex versus a smartwatch. And that's sort of a great way to start thinking about it. But I'm always trying to be a Timex. I don't want to burden anybody, and I do it all on the side. I travel with my essential oils and my this and my that. And I'm getting better as I'm getting older. I'm becoming the wise woman, but really a way of just not having that, carrying that shame around. I'm not easy.
Right.
And I'm trying to not pass on that burden to other people in my life. If I need to get ready an hour or two or a day before, I need to, I try to take that time for myself, but I'm having a challenge in, mingling that with the other people in my world who aren't highly sensitive.
And it's especially hard when you have kids in the house or a spouse.
Well, they're not in my house. I do, they're grown for, one's in college. And so, but it's more just reconciling that. My oldest daughter said, "Are you on the spectrum?" Like, she doesn't understand. It's like, no,
Yes.
I'm not autistic, like they just don't get it.
I know. And I think we are going to work throughout the class on creating the language and the identity of being able to, carry this. It's sort of like your cloak or your shield that we're going to find ways and talk more and more, literally articulating about your sensitivity, articulating about the self-test, and write about it. One great way to prepare for these conversations is to write out an example. Like, there's nothing better than the unsent letter. I'm a therapist and we're obsessed with unsent letters. It's not as popular now as it was, 30 years ago, but still, it is a brilliant way to prepare anytime you want to talk about it. So, write them a letter and read it to yourself and never give it to them. Just write it out. But I think we have to both grieve the loss, and you can find me all over YouTube saying how much I really feel ticked off about half the time about being highly sensitive. It's just not like, I have other things about me that aren't really compatible with it, like the sensation seeking. It really ticks me off. So I hear you. It's hard, and let's keep digging in.
Thank you.
Okay, Rachel G. Are there any resources addressing the challenges of being ADHD and HSP? It feels overwhelming and daunting to try to learn to manage myself, especially after later in life being diagnosed with both.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so we're going to have a whole section on this. I can't remember which week, but the week that's about mental health. And so you can find which week it is in the course modules. So I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot, but I just want to say that I'm the one running around saying ADD, because when you're overstimulated, you do have attention deficit. That's the nature of overstimulation. In fact, overstimulation looks the same, whether you're on the autism spectrum, whether you're ADHD, or whether you're highly sensitive, and many other things. Overarousal or overstimulation is overarousal, and it does make it hard to focus. Highly sensitive people are not actually ADHD when they're not overaroused. So there's nothing wrong with that diagnosis. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the fine points of the differences and what it all means. But I just want to say that living with chronic overarousal would make anyone attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. Usually it's inattentive type, which is what we used to call attention deficit disorder, for sure. But I believe highly sensitive people have situational ADD. attention deficit disorder, that it is not actually our diagnosis, that we don't actually have the illness. We have the bad habit of being in overarousal. So thank you for that. And be sure you're here when we do the differential diagnosis talk.
Okay, this one is from Felix R. I always feel the mood of the people around me and don't have any tools to defend myself against it. Are there any tools to control your sensitivity level? Is there a way to intentionally turn your sensitivity up and down?
So you can't, no. All you can do is take amazing care of yourself. So who is this again, Joanna?
This is Felix R.
Felix, and everybody, if you have not watched the free video that was the opt-in for this, it's on your course homepage. Please do, because I teach a really great technique. It's sort of a two-part technique I call the warrior's heart, where you take amazing care of yourself, amazing care of yourself. And when you do that, then you learn, and I'm going to do a meditation one of these weeks with you about how you actually will create a shield for yourself, because that's what you have to do. You're responsible for it. And I'll bet you anything that after an 8-hour hike, if you're someone who could do that, a lot of time in nature, like maybe 3 or 4 days or 3 or 4 weeks off from work, that you do a much better job of not being flooded by other people's emotions, because that's how you get to optimal level of arousal. So we have to find tweaks to make that happen.
Great. Okay, we're gonna go hand it over to Christina.
That was because of your face, Pauline. Okay, Christina, go.
Okay, hi. So I'm just a little bit confused about the difference between being an HSP and being an introvert. You know, shortly after I learned about this course, I happened upon another sort of self-assessment, and the questions were almost the same about, are you an HSP or are you an introvert? And like, so I got a little confused, like, are they the same thing? And I've never really identified as an introvert. So
thank you so much for bringing that up. There is a lot of confusion out there. And there are some people who are very famous writing about introversion as though it is the same thing as high sensitivity. So here's the thing. That also happens in the gifted community, the gifted world, that's very exceptionally high IQ. But we have great advice coming to lots of different types of people. And great advice is great advice, right? And so what you can say is that, you know, 70% of highly sensitive people are introverts, so there's a big overlap. Mm. But I want you all to be very careful consumers and really go to the scientifically validated work and questionnaires. Don't go to what every person that just wants to pops up on their website or on social media. Really go carefully into scientifically backed assessments. So there's a lot of overlap. If you're an introverted HSP, which most of us are, 70%, then, you know, they both apply. Mm. Right? And so, and it all comes down to designing a life that has enough time going in, withdrawing from the world and allowing your nervous system to self-regulate. So thanks for bringing that up, because it gave me a good opening. Thank you so much. Okay, Pauline.
Thank you, Elaine. Oh my God, thank you for extending this. And I'm so excited to be here. I'll tell you why. I've been waiting for this. I saw you on Facebook. It's like, oh my God, it hit everything. Okay, I'll try and make this really short. I have a lot of work to do. I am a yoga instructor, but I don't do that full time. I'm aware, highly sensitive, been through therapy my whole life, still have anxiety, can't sleep with anyone in my bed. I pick up energy. I'm really highly sensitive. I've been in and out being sick my whole entire life. So the terms hypochondriac, all these things as a child, I've done the child work, I've done plenty, but I'm still here. So to listen to you acknowledging that, you know, there's this other aspect that this is real, right? Because as we heard, I don't feel shame for who I am anymore. I've worked on myself so much. I'm very proud, but I'm not well, right? I
Yeah.
multitask, high achieving. I'm not stupid. I've been told lately I'm very smart. My little girl, who's 12, got diagnosed with severe OCD, was hospitalized. Now they're diagnosing me with ADHD from one sitting. And then I said to myself, I don't think I'm ADHD. I'm very hyper. My mom just died. I'm an executor of the will. I had a daughter who just got out of the hospital. So you just confirmed, okay, look at me. I'm talking fast because there's a time frame and I have a lot on my mind. I'm not ADHD. So they wanted to put me on Vyvanse and all these things. I tried it. My heart went nuts. I can't take any drugs. I'll keep it there. I just wanted to acknowledge, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to listening to you and others. I've heard some incredible questions already that I resonate with, and I'm so looking forward to learning more so I can live a healthy life.
Thank you so much, Pauline. So since ADD and ADHD is already coming up, and you brought it up, this is very true that in general, HSPs, here's another homework. Go to your homework list right now. Lay off the caffeine. Really be careful about stimulants. And the only reason that the ADD, ADHD diagnosis is dangerous for us is because stimulants do make everything worse, just like too much caffeine. So really, if you're spending a lot of time overstimulated, cut it back. My personal rule for myself is no caffeine after noon. And then sometimes I still can't sleep if I did too much. And I don't even drink coffee. So I do green tea and dark chocolate. So, it's like if I want to have chocolate lava cake, I go to that restaurant for lunch, not for dinner. It's that serious for me. That's the danger. The ADHD meds are the danger. Don't go off of them because I said this. You have to consult with your doctor, and let me give you a little more education. One of our big issues, and one of the highly sensitive person's 5 to thrive, is to know other people like you. It's actually a key component of resilience research, is to be in intimate relationships with people who really know you and see you and get you. And so what Alane has created a series of questions that are deepening questions for building relationships. And they're specifically for highly sensitive people. They're based on Art Aaron's research on the 36 questions to fall in love. They went viral because the New York Times reporter used them to fall in love with somebody. You may have heard of them. You can look them up if you're curious, especially if you're a millennial. So, but these are based on that idea of deepening intimacy and getting to know people. And I can guarantee you that if you do it, it will make you feel better. It's an important part of life redesign.